How's Tory Cox doing?
Tory Cox is doing well. Obviously, he's continuously progressing, learning how to, do things the way we do them here. And obviously, he's been making some plays and continuously progressing. But obviously, trying to find a way to live in his own skin. You know what I mean? Being a smaller guy, just continuously doing it the way he does it, but the way we do it overall.
Are you happy to hear he's not satisfied? Is that what you want to hear when he's just kind of told us, I'm not making enough plays?
Oh, exactly. Like, love that in him. You know what I mean? His father holds him to a high standard, and he was a great player. Right, his brother holds him to a high standard because he's doing really, really good at Miami Northwestern. So it's a lot of competition going on inside that family and who's getting the most PBUs and picks per week. So I know he's holding himself to that high standard as well. So happy to have that type of guy that with humility and hunger, that great mixture of it. Really love having him in the room.
That play he made in Nebraska, the pick he had there. Talk about that, how special that play was for you to watch. I mean, basically stole the ball from him, right?
Well, it was a great turning point in the game. Right. You know what I mean? They were trying to go and score, but you look at, Tory and you say, how would he be able to make a play like that? He has some like intrinsically like set motivation of, I'm going to make a play and be a dog when nobody expects me to. He's been doing it his whole life, being the smallest guy, probably inside of his high school building. He doesn't care about none of that. He takes that chip on his shoulder and he lives with it. So it was an amazing play, a great technique too, finishing on the ball. He didn't, result in a PI. He leaned, he looked, he found a way to get the ball out late, and he fought all the way to the last second. So it just goes into what Coach B talks about all the time. Like, it's not what did happen, it's what could have happened. And if he would have gave up because he felt like he was in trail, what could have happened, it could have been a touchdown for the opponent, which would have resulted in a loss for us. So it just speaks to what our room is about, just that level of mental toughness.
Why has he been able to make this jump look kind of it's a big jump, right? From the MAC to the Big Ten. Why has he made it look as seamless maybe as he's made it look?
The same reason I've been able to make this jump. I try not to make things bigger than what they are and just make them what it is. At the end of the day, if you ask Tory about it, he's going to say the same thing. It's just football, coach. It's just football, right? It's not the end of the world if a ball gets caught on him. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened in that man's life. The worst thing that happened in a man's life is something catastrophic to your family. Or on the field, he's using it as an opportunity to perform and show his brothers that you guys can depend on me. You can trust me. And so he's constantly doing it. So now everybody in the team expects him to make plays. And I think that's what he ultimately wants. He wants to be a guy that you can rely on and depend on. And obviously, I've tried to make it as simple as possible for him. Coach Henry has made it simple as possible for him, and he's literally took this opportunity and ran with it.
What has the bye week told you? What did that tell you about your group? What did you see in self-scout?
In self-scout, it told me that they were continuously looking to progress. They weren't satisfied with our results. We're 4-1, but we should be 5-0. So it told me like how much more I could push them. It also told me how many different coverages and how many different techniques that we also use, which probably makes it difficult for quarterbacks to figure out what the heck we're doing. So I was really, really happy to see that. None of them have just been like leaning on doing one thing. And I try and give them like a toolbox of things to use, right? You got a screwdriver, you got a flathead, you've got all these different things. You got a hammer, you got all these different nails. What are you going to use in different scenarios? It all comes down to that young adult trusting what I'm telling him and ultimately him using the correct tool in the correct scenario. So you see it all the time from those guys, and they're continuously doing their performance. So I'm excited to see how they've grown from the bye week by getting out in the field on Saturday.
What do you like about the rotation of guys that you've used at corner? Just maybe the number of guys and maybe just the ability to maybe match up better, in certain situations.
Well, matchups is one way and one reason that we use other guys. The other reason is just making sure everybody in the room knows, like, hey, like there's another guy behind you that's going to try and take your playing time if you ain't performing. You know what I mean? Competition is what drives a man at all times. And if you keep them seeing it, knowing it, and feeling it, they're going to keep performing, or they're going to come to the bench and watch another spirited soldier run out there and try and make the same plays that they didn't. So as long as you keep that going in the room, we say it all the time, iron sharpens iron. Well, that's it right there. The iron that's behind you is the most sharp iron that's going to come and hit you. You know what I mean? You don't want to get hit by that iron because he may not come back out. He may make that play that you should have made. So there's constant level of improvement because they know there's another guy that coach treats just like me. There's no favoritism. There's no, hey, he likes him. No, he's going to coach us all the same. And who's going to go out there and do it? it got to be me. I got to go out there and make that play. So that's how they're all thinking. That's how they're all performing. So it's exciting to see it.
Coach, we want to talk about how last week was important for the guys that hadn't got as many game reps. You know, they had more opportunity. Who in your room did you see take advantage of maybe getting higher reps in practice?
Jaheim Clark, obviously he's been killing it on special teams for us. I mean, a lot of our punt return yardage is you see him and you see young Tanner Heckel out there, and they're trying to take people to the water coolers. You know what I mean? And he takes pride in doing that, knowing that if I show my worth here, I'll maybe earn opportunity at defensive back, even though it's really, really good players with Xavier and, Tory and Terrence and KP. It's really good players in front of him, but he can't rest on his laurels and say, oh, they're just beating me. No, I got to find another way to help this team and be dependable. So I saw him take a lot of defense reps last week where he wasn't necessarily concerned with the special teams piece of it. He was really focused at owning what he's been screwing up with at DB, owning that technique and saying, this is what I'm gonna get better at. So I saw that out of him. Obviously, Canada got better last week too, and he's working to earn himself a situation now in special teams, because that's what it's all about, right? That's what I had to do as a player, right? That's what the greatest players do. That's where you're gonna start at. If any of these guys get an NFL opportunity, guess where the first place for them is gonna be? They ain't going special teams. So I'm preparing them for that moment right now. This is what we do here first.
Each week, Illinois talks about going 1-0, right? Like not looking ahead. Just you've been at other places and programs. Does everybody pretty much say the same thing, the 1-0? But what is the difference between executing? Because we see teams get upset every week. So what is the key to actually executing that 1-0 mentality?
Executing the 1-0 mentality is actually just winning today. That's what I think we do a great job of. I ain't thinking about Saturday right now. You know what I'm thinking about? Watching film from today's practice and getting corrections for tomorrow's practice. That's it. And we try and have those guys understand that with class, with how they treat people, with who they are, to their teammates, with who they are in the weight room. You got to win every day. Don't worry about Saturday. Saturday is going to come and it's going to go. And if you put everything into just Saturday, you are just like everybody else in the world. You are waiting to see if something is going to happen instead of taking life in your hands and controlling the day that you have, because you don't know if you got tomorrow. That's where I'm from. That's the way you got to live. You know what I mean? You don't know if you got tomorrow, so you live for today. So that's how we're executing it, just by performing every single day, one day at a time, one play at a time, one rep at a time. Don't worry about Saturday. Just one rep at a time, bro. Just be perfect on that one rep, because you may not get another one, because there's another spirited soldier out there trying to take your job if you don't do great at that one. Yeah. So you hold them accountable for that, and you live by them rules, and that's it.
How would you compare how Illinois has done that this year successfully to maybe some other teams that you've been a part of? Have some other teams that you've been a part of maybe haven't succeeded doing that?
Well, I've been blessed to be a part of some great coaches and some great programs. So I've learned this from some other coaches, and I've learned this just by the way that I grew up. I learned this from how Aaron Henry runs his defense. I learned this from how Coach Bielema expects us to coach the guys. So it's a part of your culture. Culture is always under construction. Well, why? Because you're always willing to go and fix what your problems are. You're not too excited to say what I'm going to do on this final day. No, I have to work and build up into that final day. So the execution is there because we own every day, one day at a time. We try and win every day, one day at a time. And the reason that we're so successful, and I've been a part of successful programs, is because I live in the moment. I can't think about next year, right? I can't think about nothing other than the time that I'm living, because I don't know when God is going to call that number for me and say it's your time. So just live in the moment and enjoy what you got when you got it.
I do have one question about Saturday. What's Hudson Card like? What have you seen so far?
Oh, man, he's a magician. That dude runs around with the ball, and he really has a lot of, that new style of quarterback that we're seeing, that Kyler Murray, that Mahomes guy that's going to dance with the football and keep plays active late down the field and keep his eyes down the field. So we've got to stay active in coverage when you're going up against a quarterback of that nature. We've got to own our responsibilities when we're in coverage, and we've got to own our responsibilities when he breaks out of the pocket and starts to scramble. We've got to do a great job of plastering on the people. So I'm excited about the challenge. I mean, there's great quarterbacks in the Big Ten, which gives great competition for us, which gives us great opportunity for growth. You can only get better.
I wanted to ask you more about Tanner. How impressive is that he made the transition from 8-man football to the Big Ten, and is that kind of where that mindset of helping with special teams, because he probably had to play everywhere in high school, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the greatest part of your growth. Having something to step yourself into and say, okay, this is the one job you want me to do? Yes, sir. Do this one job and you can maybe earn something else. That's what we're trying to teach. That's what we're trying to grow. Good, proud Americans doing it that way, right? You know what I mean? You teach them how to earn something. You teach them how to go out there and take something from somebody else, because nobody's going to give you anything. And so he's earned that right, and now he's learning how to take opportunities from the guys that he's in front of and continuously grow and get better. So a guy that's coming from 8-man football, you just try and do the best you can as a coach and teach him, like, hey, it's all about angles and space, just like it was for you on the field that you're on. Maybe a smaller field, maybe with less people, but it's still same. Be physical, be fast, and have some dang on fun while you're out there. So, you know, you see him out there doing that, and he has a big smile on his face, and so he takes kids to the water coolers, and you love it, because that was the one job he had, the one rep he had. So, you know, there's growth in that, because who is he next year? You know what I mean? Or who is he next game for us? Or who is he next week for us? You constantly see that growth, because you're just keeping it one day at a time, trying to teach them how to win one day.
Corey, when you talk about multiple coverages, can you give me the timeline on that? Was that something you and Aaron and as a staff, you identified, like, we want to do this before the season, or did your guys kind of show you as games went on that you can add a few more things into the book there?
Well, when I got here, Coach Henry already had his crock pot cooking. You know what I mean? He already was, you know, throwing different ingredients in there and what he wanted to do as far as using different coverages and different ideas. My job was to take the ideas that he had and say, I have to implement techniques to apply to each coverage. So I'm not teaching same, because it's not. Right? I'm not, it's not apples and oranges sometimes. It's a whole nother vegetable when you're dealing with, you know, fruits and coverages. So you got to move along. You got to be able to see, okay, this is your vision, coach. How can I take your vision and actually put in a practical approach with the personnel that we have? So it's also a part of who we're doing this with, right? And so the fact that he was willing to, you know, use some different things, and he's a very, very smart coach. I mean, the stuff that he's learned when he was at Rutgers, the stuff that he learned at Vanderbilt, the stuff that he's learned here, and he's bringing it all together. He's just got some great coaches with us able to, you know, surround around him and teach the appropriate techniques to the appropriate type of personnel. So the multiple coverages creates different, you know, situations for quarterbacks and offensive coordinators to deal with, but it also creates a lot of intrigue for us to say, oh, we can use this right now instead of just leaning on this. So it's really, really good for the players and the coaches along.